Welcome to Tears of Karma. I still remember the sting of that moment, as if the sound itself carved scars across my skin. My granddaughter leaned close, lips brushing her sister's ear, her voice a quicksilver whisper in Italian. My first tongue, my forgotten inheritance. Then came the laughter. It was sharp, merciless, striking like the crack of a whip against bone. The others joined in, their amusement spilling across the table, weaving me into the punchline of a joke I was not supposed to understand. They thought me deaf to the subtleties, dulled by years and softened by frailty. They believed I had surrendered my mind along with my youth, that the language of my blood had slipped away like dust between my fingers. But I had not forgotten. It lived in me, dormant but waiting, the rhythm of my mother's lullabies, the cadence of my father's commands, the prayers whispered over graves. I let the ridicule wash over me, my face a mask of quiet compliance. My hands trembled slightly, not with weakness but with restraint. Then I answered, steady and deliberate, in the language they thought buried with my ancestors. My words cut the air like knives, sharper for their unexpected edge. The silence that followed was suffocating, thick as smoke in a sealed room. My granddaughter's face collapsed into shock, my daughter's eyes darted away. My son-in-law cleared his throat, but no sound came. They had not expected the corpse to rise and speak. For a brief moment, I saw guilt flicker across their faces. Though guilt can be faked, like love at a funeral. That was when I knew the laughter had done more than wound me. It had awakened something buried deeper than memory. That moment was the crack. And through that crack, the poison began to seep. I replayed every face at that table long after the laughter faded, like a film that refused to end. My daughter's lips twisted into a smile she tried to disguise as discipline, her hand resting lightly on her child's shoulder, as if that touch could wash away her approval. I saw her for what she was. Not a mother correcting a daughter, but a woman delighting in cruelty so long as it cost her nothing. Beside her sat my son-in-law, shoulders stiff, shifting uneasily in his chair. His eyes flicked toward me once, then quickly away, the way cowards look at a crime but do nothing to stop it. His silence was louder than their laughter, an alibi for betrayal. The others, my grandchildren, sat with eyes darting, waiting for cues like dogs watching for scraps. Not one defended me. Not one. Their silence wrapped around me tighter than chains, proving their loyalty was not to blood but to inheritance. To the mother who taught them my worth had an expiration date. The table itself seemed to close in around me. Polished wood that once carried birthdays and weddings now carried smirks and whispered daggers. The air reeked of roasted meat and deception. They thought I was too frail to see through it. But frailty sharpens perception. Weakness makes the cruel louder. I knew then I was no longer family. I was a relic, a wallet with a pulse, a body keeping their future alive. The betrayal burned hotter than I admitted that night, searing into me until my chest ached with it. And yet, as the memory played, I felt something stronger than pain rise inside me. If karma was too slow to find them, then perhaps I would lend her my hand. As the weeks stretched on, I began to see their movements for what they were. A circling, patient and predatory, like vultures waiting for the last breath. My daughter became the boldest. She slipped documents into casual conversations, her voice honeyed with concern. Just sign here, Mama. It will save you trouble later. Her eyes lingered on the page more than on me. She never thought I noticed. My son-in-law played a different game. Feigned responsibility. He offered to handle my accounts, his hand already reaching for the keys to a vault he had no right to enter. He spoke of protecting me, of simplifying things, but his eagerness betrayed him. I could smell greed stronger than the cologne he wore. The grandchildren joined in, rehearsed in their subtle cruelty. My eldest grandson dared to suggest that the house, the walls I built, the rooms I filled, might be better in younger hands. His tone was light, but the hunger behind it was not. Even the youngest ones watched me carefully, measuring how much longer I would last. They thought me blind. They thought the years had stripped away my strength, my clarity, my will to fight. They mistook silence for surrender. But silence can also be strategy, and my mind was sharper than their polished smiles. The whispering at dinner had not been a passing cruelty. It was their confession. Their laughter revealed contempt that could no longer be hidden. They believed me disposable, a hurdle between them and the fortune they believed was already theirs. That night, as I lay in the dark, listening to the house breathe around me, I swore to myself, If they wanted my legacy, they would choke on it. And I already knew how I would feed it to them. They forgot who I was before the gray hair, before the fragile steps. They saw only the bent spine, not the years it had carried. They forgot I had built a life from nothing, clawing survival from stone while they were still learning to walk. They forgot the languages I gathered like weapons, the countries I crossed when survival meant leaving everything behind. They forgot that betrayal was not new to me. I had tasted it before, long before their laughter at my table. Their arrogance did not weaken me, it sharpened me. Every smirk, every careless word, every hungry glance reminded me that I was not finished yet. If anything, I was becoming dangerous again. I began gathering what they could not imagine I had the patience for. Bank statements carefully filed away. Property deeds hidden in folders they had never seen. Secrets spilled to me over the years in hushed tones, now resurrected in ink. I bought a notebook, plain and ordinary, and filled it page by page, dates, words, intentions. Each entry was a blade waiting to be drawn. To the outside world, I remained the frail matriarch. My hands trembled when they watched. My voice softened when they listened. I let them see only the cracks. But behind the mask, I grew sharper each day, feeding on the venom they poured into me. They thought me broken. They thought I had already surrendered. But I was only bending, biding time until the snap would echo loud enough to shatter them. One night, as I closed the notebook and slid it beneath my bed, I whispered to myself, "They will never see me coming." And for the first time in years, I smiled in the dark. I started with small traps, tiny seeds I planted with care. Nothing obvious, nothing too bold. I mentioned a savings account I knew didn't exist, and watched as their faces betrayed them. Their eyes glistened with that same hunger, the glint I had seen in them before, the one that never reached their hearts but always crawled toward their wallets. I hinted at changes to my will, casual, offhand. "I've been thinking of leaving the house to someone who appreciates it," I said, and let the words fall into the air like a stone in water. They waited for the ripple. Suddenly, their attention was razor sharp, their voices too sweet, their hands too eager. The feigned kindness flowed like syrup, and I could practically hear the clinking of coins in their minds. The mask slipped then, as it always did. Their love was not love. It was a contract, a transaction. Every time I asked a question too sharp, too probing, I saw it falter. My daughter's eyes hardened just a fraction. My son-in-law's smile wavered like smoke. But my granddaughter, the whisperer, she was the boldest. She didn't hide her disdain anymore. In private, she mocked me, her voice thick with contempt. I wasn't sure if she thought I couldn't hear, or if she just didn't care. Either way, it didn't matter. She believed her mother's approval would protect her, that the walls of family would shield her from any consequence. She couldn't have been more wrong. I smiled through it all, letting them believe they had won, letting them think they were clever. But I had already set my plan in motion, and once it began, there would be no turning back. I rewrote everything. My will, my estate, every account I held in my name. They thought they were draining me, feeding off me as if I were already a corpse. But I was the one pulling threads, weaving a tapestry they could never imagine. I placed names where they least expected, names they had dismissed or overlooked. My grandson, quiet, observant, uncomfortable with their cruelty, was the one I chose for the house. Not my daughter, not the one who had schemed behind my back for years. She had no claim to it anymore. Let her dream of it. Let her long for the house she thought was hers, while my grandson took the keys from her. He would inherit a place that held memories too painful for her to ever touch. The savings? I redirected them, not into their greedy palms, but to charities in the family's name, ones they would never control. Let their egos burn with the thought that the very name they exploited had done good elsewhere. I wanted them to choke on the irony of it, to feel the sting of my revenge every time they tried to find some way to manipulate their way into that money. And for those who mocked me most, for my daughter and granddaughter, nothing. No trust, no legacy, just the bitter taste of absence, of being erased from history. I made sure there would be nothing left to claim, nothing to take. My inheritance to them would be a void. Still, I kept my silence. I smiled as they spoke of the riches they believed already belonged to them, as they made plans for the future that I had already taken from them. They had no idea what was coming, no sense of how deep the cut would go. I let them feel secure, let them believe they had won. I had learned the art of playing their game, of pretending to be weak while I built a weapon under the surface. The world was mine to burn, and they had unknowingly lit the match. The night I revealed everything was staged like theater, and I was both playwright and actor. I invited them to supper, just as they expected, no suspicion, no warning. The table was set with care, silver polished, wine breathing in its crystal cage. They arrived dressed as if for celebration, already glowing with the certainty of their imagined future. I let them eat. I let them drink. I watched them bask in their false security, laughing too loudly, speaking too freely, never realizing the walls had ears sharper than their whispers. The roasted meat, the clinking glasses, the warmth of candlelight, it all became backdrop for the storm that was about to break. When silence fell between courses, I struck. My voice, steady, unshaken, carried across the table. I recounted their words, their laughter, their greed. One by one, I repeated the things they thought had slipped unnoticed, the barbs they believed buried. My granddaughter froze, her fork clattering onto porcelain. My daughter's smile vanished like smoke. My son-in-law turned pale, his hand tightening around his glass until it trembled. I understood everything, I told them, my tone colder than the night pressing against the windows. Every whisper, every betrayal. Then, piece by piece, I unveiled the truth of the will. The house to the grandson they dismissed, the savings gone to charity, their names erased where they thought they had already been engraved. Gasps, shouts, the air cracked with disbelief. They turned on one another instantly, accusations flying across the table. Knives of words cut deeper than steel. My daughter hissed at her husband. My grandchildren snarled at each other, the fragile illusion of unity shattering in seconds. I sat in the storm, calm, unflinching. My humiliation had been avenged. But as I watched their faces twist and fracture, I understood something darker. This was only the beginning. For karma, once summoned, does not stop with one act. It lingers, it multiplies, it consumes. And I had invited her into our home. They fractured overnight. The unity they flaunted like armor splintered the moment they realized there was nothing left to win. My daughter accused her husband of betrayal, her voice sharp as glass, insisting he had known, that he had failed to secure what was rightfully ours. He roared back, pointing at her scheming, her manipulation, her whispers that had poisoned the children. The grandchildren fared no better. They turned on one another, claws out, each blaming the other for speaking too freely, for not flattering me enough, for not securing their piece of the inheritance. Their bonds dissolved like sugar in boiling water, sweetness collapsing into bitterness. The family dinners ended. No more wine, no more laughter masking contempt. The house grew quiet, its walls no longer echoing with false pleasantries. They stopped visiting altogether, except for the angry calls that pierced through the silence. Demands for explanations. Accusations of madness. Desperate pleas, dripping with entitlement. I listened. I hung up. My silence became another blade, sharper than words. I had not destroyed them. They destroyed themselves. Once deprived of the prize they believed was owed to them, they devoured one another. Every lie surfaced. Every selfish act became ammunition. Their family tree, once paraded proudly, now bore nothing but rot. I watched with a cold calm as their lives unraveled. My daughter's marriage cracked like thin ice. My granddaughter's arrogance curdled into despair when she realized her mother could not save her. The grandson who had mocked me most began to drink, bitter at the emptiness of his reward. And through it all, I felt no guilt. They had chosen this path. I had simply held up the mirror, and they recoiled at the reflection. But as the dust settled and the silence deepened, I realized something unsettling. The storm had left me standing, alone among the ruins. And in that silence, I began to wonder, was karma finished, or was she still circling? In the end, I returned to the language they thought I had forgotten. Italian was not something I lost. It was something I carried quietly, tucked deep inside, waiting for the right moment to breathe again. I whispered to myself in it, filling the empty rooms with words they had long denied me. Prayers my mother once sang over bread rising in the oven. Songs my grandmother hummed while scrubbing laundry in icy water. Lines of poetry I memorized as a girl, when I still believed words could protect me from the world. The house, stripped of their presence, had become a cathedral of memory. The air carried the weight of my voice, echoing off walls that had once absorbed their laughter and their greed. It was no longer their space. It was mine again. My whispers laced the silence, weaving something stronger than their absence, a reclamation. I thought often of the night my granddaughter leaned close, lips brushing her sister's ear, her voice sliding like venom in Italian. She thought herself clever, believed her cruelty would vanish in translation, hidden from my comprehension. But words, once spoken, take root. That whisper was not simply a slight. It was a curse she planted with her own tongue. She had mocked me, but she had awakened me. She believed she was untouchable, that her mother's approval shielded her from consequence. Instead, her laughter became the seed of her downfall. Betrayal burned through me like fire, stripping me bare. It left me raw, exposed, fragile. Yet in that ruin, I discovered something I had not expected: clarity. Revenge did not come with blood or violence. It came with the quiet unmasking of truth. It came with the will they never expected, the mirror I forced them to face, the storm I unleashed with words sharper than any blade. They thought me weak, thought me broken, thought me finished. But I had survived worse before they were even born. I had endured betrayals they could not imagine, wars they had never read about, griefs they would never carry. Their cruelty was not the first I had known, only the most personal. And I used it. I sharpened myself on it until they were the ones bleeding. Now I sometimes wonder if they dream of me. If my daughter still wakes at night, furious at the thought of the house she lost. If my son-in-law still curses himself for underestimating me. If my granddaughter still feels the sting of humiliation when she remembers the night I answered her in perfect Italian, a language she had tried to use as a weapon. Do they hear my voice in their sleep, echoing the words they thought buried? Perhaps they do. Perhaps they try not to. It matters little now. They laughed once. That was their mistake. I am the one left standing, while their unity has rotted, their bonds dissolved, their legacy burned to ash by their own hands. They devoured themselves after I simply showed them the truth. I did not need to destroy them. I only had to step aside and let their greed finish the work. The silence of my home is no longer suffocating. It is clean. It is sacred. I walk through the rooms and hear only the voices of the past, my mother, my father, my childhood self, speaking in Italian, carrying me through the solitude. In this language, I am whole again. And so I whisper still. Not for them, never again for them. But for me. For the girl I was, for the woman I became, for the survivor who refused to die as their victim. In the language they forgot I knew, I found not only my peace, but my vengeance. And I will carry both until the end.